Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Now that Jason and I have properly besmirched the holy grail that is boxing, um, and frankly called out what we consider to be, you could argue that's kind of sexist. If a wildly decorated Olympian is not getting their just due, we wanted to pivot to something that is near and dear to both of our hearts, and that is personal fitness. Jason, I know with things being reopened around the country, for example, beaches, gyms, and whatnot, you're definitely going to see a push for a refocus on personal health. Especially from the obsession with losing weight. I've personally kind of gotten off of that narcotic and started to fixate a little bit more on other metrics. I really find that a lot of people end up doing themselves a disservice when they only focus on weight loss as a way to determine how healthy one could be. So I've been a little kinder to myself, actually. And I was checking out this one article that says 27 really great fitness goals that has nothing to do with weight loss is from BuzzFeed. And one of the goals was to finally work out consistently. And that one really spoke to me. I think for a lot of people, working out is almost like church, like having that foundation in their life. And I wanted to know if you've had anything like that in your personal fitness journey where you feel like, okay, I'm doing well, but I'm not using a number on a scale to determine whether or not you're actually getting closer to your goals or not.
So I can't put out the moment when when it clicked and realized that the number on the scale by itself isn't the most important thing. And I'm glad you mentioned it too, when it comes to that shouldn't be the only thing we look at. I mean, I definitely get that, to having that as like an end goal as well. But I think, and if you do have a number, there's all sorts of mini victories that you can get along that way that are really, really more important than it comes to what's on the scale. But I can say one thing is that I do remember, this is back in like 2012, and you know me, I've been in the lifting weights and everything for going back to, teenage years, college or even high school before, But I remember back in like 2012, I remember I was working somewhere and I had a week off of work and it was going to be a staycation and I wasn't going to go anywhere. And I knew, I'm like, since I'm not going nowhere, you know what? I'm going to take this week, get really in shape, lose a whole bunch of weight. So what I decided to do, what I tried to do anyway, was I figured I was going to do nothing but cardio the whole week. I was going to do like a 2-a-day, all 7 days, cardio in the morning, cardio in the evening, and do that for 7 days, right? Because I was so focused on, I want to get to this number on the scale, and that was it. I want to get that goal. Now, obviously, I will tell you, I wore myself out by doing all that cardio. I think I got to like day 5, and I couldn't do the 2-day thing. I was up here done, and physically, I was just like, I don't feel like doing it, So I was wearing myself out trying to get the number on the scale, and I don't even recall if I even got the number I wanted to. I don't even know. Doesn't really matter now, but I definitely can attest to that. And if anybody who's listening that knows me knows I'm really into fitness now, but back then I wasn't quite as knowledgeable when it comes to, not focusing on the scale, but focusing on other victories that are more important. So obviously things have changed now. Obviously, there's a number goal I have, but I know now that, okay, what's the means to get to that goal? Not other than just losing weight, just to lose weight. I focus more on certain things like body fat percentage, things like that, which obviously if you're dropping body fat, you're going to drop number on the scale, but that's more important than just losing that because I don't want to lose muscle, things like that, blah, blah, blah. But long story of the short, it is, like I said before, there's so many victories along the way to your fitness goal, whatever it may be, that are more important that people need to focus on. And I really do think that those victories are actually what people are really focused on and what's more important to them. And they'll know that as long as they get past what's on that scale, that number goal on the scale. Like, for example, I found an article on CNN Health that mentioned like 5 signs that your workouts are working besides what that number says on the scale. And the first one they mentioned is kind of something I tell everybody, but it says your pants are fitting looser. I mean, I tell you what, man, I don't think if you're male or female, I don't think it really matters if the pants you have, like in your closet right now, you put them on and they feel looser to you in the waist and the legs and the butt, whatever it may be. Even if that scale said the exact same thing as it, after a week or so after when the first day you started, if you can feel those pants being looser, then you're probably, guess what? You're probably gonna look at that as a victory. You're not gonna care what that scale says because you're like, wait, why are these pants looser in my waist? But the scale says, oh, I don't care. I like what's there in the waist. And you can apply that same thing to the other stuff on this list, like a tighter strap on your bra is needed because obviously you're losing weight. And if you're obviously don't wear a bra, you can apply the same thing to your shirt. But these next 2 things, I think, get lost a lot from people. Is you have more energy and you have improved endurance. And I think the first one there, more energy, is extremely important. Now, it's like for me and you, as we get older, and not to say that we're old people, but older with an ER. But I think that's more important because obviously, naturally, sometimes you lose energy as you get older. But if you're able to fight that off, and just by your consistent working out, like you mentioned, if you can get that extra energy, trust me, I think that's even more important. Like, take for example, my dad. My dad is, I won't give away his age, but obviously, you guys know how old I am. So just, hey, figure it out from there, do the math. But anyway, he, obviously when it's not times during COVID, when the weather's better, he's outside playing tennis in his complex. He's walking or riding his bike along Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. He's going to classes, working out, yoga. He told me he's even was doing before. And, again, obviously, he may not have as much energy as he did when he was 20, but I have to say he has a lot more energy than your average 70-year-old. Sorry, I just gave the age away. I tried. Sorry. But yeah, so I think that's increasingly important. If you can still maintain some level of activity or even increase your endurance or energy as well, that's even better. But talking about endurance, if when you started working out, you could barely walk and now you're jogging or now you're running or now you run even further than you went before, that's a more important victory. Forget the scale. The scale will work itself out. All that other stuff is really what's more important there, So, and then, and I know you found some other articles too, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you hit on something. First off, that's fucking awesome that your dad is still killing it, even though he's 70, and that's fucking crazy that we look at people, you would think that with the life expectancy increasing, that our quality of life would also increase. Unfortunately, for many of us, that is not the case. I've determined to absolutely be the exemplary example. In that case, I definitely can tell you I have a higher level of energy at 41 than I did at 30. I can tell you that. I am definitely more self-confident. I mean, shit, I was at the clubhouse pool this weekend, had my shirt off, and for a minute, I was like, I don't give a fuck if anybody thinks that I'm fat or whatever. It's like, first off, I feel good. I deserve to feel good and feel like I'm the coolest motherfucker at this pool right now and be comfortable in my own skin. And you cannot put a price on that, Jason. I don't give a shit how old you are. I don't give a shit how overweight you are. When you have that mentality that, hey, I exist, I belong, and I feel confident in myself, and you're self-assured, and you're not worried about what some motherfucker two, seats down looks like, and you're just doing your own thing, and you got your own vibe, and you're on your own fucking planet. It's like, listen, that is worth its weight in gold. That cannot be defined on a scale, though. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm aware, like I'll try and weigh myself maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm not obsessing about it the way I was when I was in my 30s, where I was like floundering, like, oh my God, I'm 5 pounds heavier than I was yesterday. And I proceed to fucking eat my weight in gummy bears and dumb shit like that. I feel in control. I am cognizant of the fact that, hey, even if that number isn't what I would like it to be, I understand that I have the most control over that other than anybody else. And that level of self-awareness and that self-assuredness is something that you can't get from a scale. The scale can be your friend, but also the scale can be your enemy, especially if you let it be your enemy. Let it be a tool to get you to where you want to go. But ultimately, it's not going to do the work for you. And listen, after the last 15 months, I am definitely not denying myself um, drinks or sweets or anything like that. I'm simply aware that, hey, if I want a certain type of result, I have to do so in moderation. And that level of understanding has really served me well the last 3 or 4 months, man, while we were waiting for shit to reopen. So yeah, I definitely agree that there are a multitude of ways that you can measure success from a personal fitness standpoint without driving yourself fucking crazy, weighing yourself all the time. Like, that's how you get to like that toxic level of, oh my God, I need to do this to lose a pound, or I need to do this to gain a pound, or I need to not do this, or I need to not hang out with this person. It's like, you're going to drive yourself fucking crazy. The road to progress ultimately does not is not built from extremes. And that's what we as a culture need to understand, that like, hey, if you want to build something solid from a personal fitness, and you mentioned the physical when you were talking about going crazy with the cardio, but you also mentioned the mental. Like, your mind was like, why the fuck am I doing all that? What is the purpose behind that? Everything that I do, I try to do with a purpose. I'm like, hey, if I can do this at the gym, I can do this. This will help me do something better when I'm home, or something better when I'm at work. Like, I want to keep my body sharp. I want to keep my mind sharp, and be able to use those gifts, and harness those in other ways, not only for myself but also for my household, for my community. And yeah, a lot of that is really just stemming from a mindset, um, and that should drive really everyone's personal fitness journey. But that also comes in hand when you have people that believe in you, man. Like you've seen me at my heaviest, and you knew I didn't sound like this. I didn't feel like this, more importantly. So even if you don't have what you would consider to be your ideal body or your ideal mind, you still need people behind you and alongside you to encourage you. So, Jason, I'm just going to say thank you for being a fucking rock star friend, for encouraging me, because of you, because of my mom, because of my sister, because of my wife, an assortment of other friends. I've been able to not give up. I had so many reasons, in my 30s to give up and just quit and say, fuck it, I'm never going to be able to feel a certain way. So for me, that's really was the game changer, was not only not giving up on myself, but also having a community of friends and family around me that also did not give up on me. So that's a big part that I think some people are missing. They don't even have a community. So find your tribe is what I would say. You know, if you're around people who don't support, if you want to make a change and you're constantly around people that basically like, nah, you can just keep doing the same shit, but you're not actually getting to where you want to go, then you have to kind of reevaluate that. And you mentioned, your dad being 70. You know who, when I roll up in the gym and people are like, damn, Terrence, you lost a lot of weight, man. You look great. You know who some of the biggest fucking cheerleaders are at the gym? 50, 60-year-old black men that say, hey, man, you're killing it, man. You're doing great. That is pushing me because I'm literally looking at dudes like, damn, that might be me in 10 years. These motherfuckers are 10 years older than me and they're in better shape than I am. They've raised the bar. So that is also a component of it. I'm a competitive motherfucker. I've been at the gym and I've seen fucking grandparents in there that can bench press me. Okay. So when you find your tribe, things change. So,
excuse me, you definitely said a lot there, and I'm glad you did. When we decided on this as the topic, I was hoping you would just kind of start flowing with the words. So when you were saying all that stuff, I'm like, I had my hand away from the microphone. I wasn't ready. I was letting you go because I was like, this is all the stuff I wanted him to say. I'm glad he said it. So I'm glad you got to all that, man. And I will say this. What you said that I saw you or knew you at your heaviest. And actually, that's not true. I actually didn't. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this before in the previous time we kind of brought this up, sort of, is that you mentioned a time frame in your life when you were your heaviest. And I didn't know that you were that heavy. I didn't know that. Now, I don't know if I can't recall if I actually physically saw you in person during that time frame or not. But I do remember you telling me the certain number that you were before that, and it wasn't anywhere near what you were at your heaviest, according to what you've told me. So, but like I've did say before, I'm definitely glad that you made it past that situation there. And like you said, you're striving to stay away from that. But in all the stuff you did say, you hit on a lot of key things there. But I do think the huge important thing is you mentioned when it comes to self-image and self-confidence. I think those are hugely, I'll go ahead and say probably the most important things no matter what you say on the scale. Because there are people that, obviously you mentioned too, society has those stigmas that they put on people no matter what they are, whether they're big or small, whatever they may be. And if someone is bigger, obviously society will say whatever they're going to say about them. But sometimes those people who are bigger, they don't care. They embrace it. They still have a good self-confidence about that. They have a good self-image. And you know what? That's fine. That is perfectly fine. If you're happy with who you are physically or even mentally too, hey, do you. Do you? I know Lizzo is the one out there right now who is that person putting herself out there who is a plus size person. But she's embracing it. She's loving it. People might have their opinions about it, but hey, guess what? She's putting out there she's a confident person. I think that is greatly important. You mentioned, that you're at your local pool with your shirt off, not caring. Hey, that's great, but that is and that kind of goes into what we were saying before, what I was saying before is that I think ultimately, no matter what people's goals are when it comes to the scale, or even if it's a non-weight loss goal, I kind of feel like people's subconscious goal is either one of two things. Either one, I want to look great in my clothes, or I want to look great out of my clothes, if you know what I mean. So And for some people, maybe both. And I think if anybody can get to that point of themselves to be that confident that they like what they see in their clothes and out of them, I think that's really important. And I think, and all the people that I talk to who have struggled with that, most of the people that I do talk to about that, they always say that the scale number would be great, but I just want to be right up here. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and like what I actually see, no matter what it is. And you hit on that completely. That is highly important. And the reason why I found another article the other day from the Mayo Clinic talking about now weight loss goals that are worth setting, and they mentioned 10 of them. And what you were saying earlier, you hit on like almost all 10 of them, maybe 9 of them except for one of them. They got drink more water, get more sleep, be more flexible with your nutrition, incorporate resistance training, do more of what makes you happy. But the 6th one in there is cut out the negative self-talk. Now, even though you can take out the self part and it will still be applicable, cut out the negative talk. But I do think the self-talk is probably what's going to be more dangerous, because you can cut out the outside talk in any way you can, whether it be TV, social circles, internet, whatever. But you can't get away from this. You have to get away from it yourself. This is always going to be up with you here. You can't get away from that. So turn that self-image around, all that negative self-talk, getting rid of that. That's huge, because this is always going to be here. So if you can get this straight, everything out here don't matter anymore. So that definitely is important there as well. But number 7, you mentioned this too, aim for consistency over perfection. And I've even heard professional bodybuilders talk about this, is that whenever they ask people, how do you maintain that that stage ready body all the time? And one person that I follow on YouTube, Dana Lynn Bailey, former, she won the Arnold competition years ago. The one thing she always said was consistency. I'm consistent with my workouts, consistent with my eating, all that stuff. Now, obviously, I'm not saying everybody needs to be in the bodybuilder mindset, because you don't. If that's not your goal, then you don't have to do what they do as far as the full details. But again, like this article said, and like she said, be consistent with your workouts, with your eating habits, things like that. And, and you mentioned too, it's not that you can't have those cheat meals, as people sometimes call it. I like to call it the one-off meals, because cheating has a negative connotation to it. So you can have those one-off meals, one-off snacks, stuff like that. But as you mentioned, and as I say as well, moderation, portion control. Moderation, don't be having it that often. Don't be doing it every other day, whatever like that. And then portion control. If you want to have some pizza every so often, that's great. But don't be eating 3 of them. Don't be eating 3 whole pizzas. Don't do that. Portion control. Keep that in mind too. But again, consistency. So have those one-off meals or one-off snacks. That's fine. But again, consistency. Whatever form that may look like for you and your fitness, nutrition goals. Learn something new when it comes to either yourself or when it comes to working out nutrition. Learn something new to better yourself in that fitness goal, that you have for yourself. Eat mindfully kind of goes into what I was saying before, but then also control your food environment. I say with that, definitely people need to have a healthy relationship with food and drink. That's very important. And I think you like to say I think you've said this, you have a better relationship with it now than you had before. And even people who are actually, of the fitness mindset, like they've done competitions before that I've talked to, even they have trouble with this sometimes, controlling your food environment. But one tip I would give people, just from my personal situation, when you look at your food environment, you think of one thing: the kitchen, the refrigerator. So if you're trying to be consistent, and again, keep in mind portion and moderation, don't bring that stuff in your house. Because if you bring it in your house, guess what? That means you got to eat it. So save your one-off meals, like say for when you're going out somewhere or you're picking up some lunch randomly for work or whatever, save it for that. But control your food environment, control your kitchen, control your fridge. That's the best tip I can give when it comes to that. But I'll tell you something else, Terrence. We always have our production meetings on Mondays. We talk about what we're going to talk about, go from there. Then we record on Tuesdays, and on Tuesdays before we record, I always make my show notes. I get in my head what we want to talk about, things like that for all the segments and everything. I didn't actually make a whole lot of notes for this segment because I had a couple articles I would kind of work off of, and I figured, you know what, between you and me, between all the experiences we have when it comes to trying to reach fitness goals and things like that, from two different perspectives, I figured I didn't really need a whole lot of show notes for this segment, so I made like 2 lines for this segment, and that's it.
Same, yeah.
So
I really feel like we wanted to talk about this segment from the perspectives of how we approach personal fitness. And the thing that I really appreciate the most is that, number one, Jason and I, we've been best friends for 30 years. We have very different physiques. Okay. I was at one point, guys, 400 pounds. I'm 265 as of this week. And I guarantee you, I'm still probably giving up a good 90 pounds, if not 100, to Mr. Jason Ross here. So I think what we can offer people is different experiences, different perspectives, different successes, different failures. And what people can see is that, hey, just because somebody looks like they don't struggle with this shit doesn't mean that they got it all figured out. Because trust, Jason and I could probably tell you about all the ways in which you can fuck up a diet, all the ways in which you can injure yourself while working out. Hell, I once sprained a knee walking away from a fucking Bowflex. Okay, kids? I've seen it all. I've done it all.
you mean that thing in your basement that never got used that I saw?
It got used. It got used. I just had to hobble away that one time. I'm like the Evel Knievel of fucking sports injuries, man. It's hilarious. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's oh, and by the way, now Terrence, folks, he doesn't know it, but he made a a typical mistake people make. They look at somebody and assume things. So now you guys heard Terrence. Yeah, exactly. You assume stuff. So you heard Terrence make the statement that probably has me by like 90, 100 pounds. And is that what you're sticking to, Terrence? You think you got me by 90 or 100 pounds?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you're 265 right now?
I weighed myself this morning. Yes.
So what would I say to you if I told you that as of yesterday that you and I are only 61 pounds apart? What would you say?
I would say someone's been hitting it hard with the vegan donuts. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, bro. So actually, I did weigh myself yesterday, and I was 204. And actually, so just so you guys know, first from my own, insight into my life. So right now, I'm actually in what they call the cutting process, where I'm dropping body fat right now. So that's part of my goal there. So I actually started this a little while ago. I was actually at 212, Terrence. But yeah, so looking to get that body fat percentage down there. Now, as far as the scale goes, if you are someone who is using a scale to measure whatever you're going to measure, unless you're someone who's a professional in the fitness game, bodybuilder, CrossFitter, whatever, my recommendation with the scale is if you can avoid using it altogether, great. But if you're going to use it, only use it once a week. You don't need to do it more than that because it becomes an obsession. Would you not agree, Terrence?
I am conflicted on that, Jason, because I've definitely gone the route where I was weighing myself every day. That shit does get to be a little absurd. I would say once a weekend and then twice during the week. Moderation. You're literally doing it 3 days out of 7. That's okay. But ultimately, I think find a cadence that works for you. It really doesn't do you a whole bunch of good if you're doing it every fucking day, and yet you're not changing anything about what you eat or what you're doing from a fitness perspective. It's like expecting, money to magically fucking show up at your doorstep. before payday. It's like it's not going to happen. So
Well, just some insight. The reason why I say once a day or once a week, excuse me. Uh, and when I say that, typically I'd say make sure it's the same day every week, like whether it be every Monday, every Tuesday, whatever. Also, make sure it's the same time frame of day, ideally before you've eaten anything for the day.
see, I think that's more important. Is that
Yeah,
do it as many fucking times as you want to do it. Hi-yo, during the week, just make sure you do it at the same time because chances are your routine is going to define what you weigh. Some people tend to be a little heavier in the evening. Some people prefer to do a fasted cardio type deal. Whatever you do, make sure that you're doing it with the same parameters in play. If you're doing it with shoes on, weigh yourself with shoes on the next time. Don't stop trying to fool with a fucking scale. I mean, the tech has come far enough that the fucking scale literally does everything except come on, fam.
yeah, and I think that goes back to consistency as well. And again, I still stick to once a week, but if you are someone for whatever reason still wants to do multiple times a week, I'd say still do your comparisons week to week. So Terrence mentioned if you're going to do it 3 times a week, pick the same 3 days every week, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but do your comparisons week to week on the same day. What were you if you weigh yourself on one Monday? What were you last Monday? Compare yourself to that. When you get to Wednesday, compare yourself to last Wednesday. Don't be comparing yourself week from day to day during the same week, because the thing is, most people aren't eating the exact same things every day of the week. So that plays a role in it too. So, and that's why I say do it once a week, because it can become too much of a game. Again, if you're someone who's a pro and knows what you're doing and not getting too obsessive with the scale and focus on the other stuff, then okay. But for most people like Joe Schmo and Jennifer on the block, yeah. Adding more to the list of Jasonisms on this show, people. So again, so Joe Schmo, Jen around the block, who may not be as much deep in the fitness game as professionals are, again, still consistency, but I'd recommend to avoid the whole scale obsession no more than once a week. Just my opinion, of course. Terrence given his. As always, we have differences of opinion. People are probably going to hate my opinions based off last week's discussion, and that's fine if you can't separate the two. That's your problem. But but yeah. So but yeah, definitely this has been a great topic. I'm glad we covered it. I think this topic, not just for me and Terrence, but definitely affects a lot of people when it comes to this is relative to me and my situation.
That might also be a Jasonism in relation to me and my situation. All right. That concludes segment 2 related to body image. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the movie and TV dads that we loved on Cow Park Bros.